Hi, everyone. We're going to wait till about 6:05 while people are still logging on. Hi, everyone. We're going to give people about a few more minutes to log on, so we'll probably get started about 6:05. Hi, everyone. We're going to give people a few more minutes to log on, so we'll probably get started about 6:05. Mike, we could even put a note like that on. You don't have to do it now. Next time. Or if we seem pretty steady at like 6:04, Mike, we could probably get started.
It appears 35 people are attending.
Yeah, that's what I see now too.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's 6:04, and I think we haven't seen too many more people log on. We will get some more. So I think we'll get started. Hi, everyone. My name is Denise Tacuna from NV5, consultants for Mercer County on this project. We're here this evening for the Regional Transportation Alternatives Program, known as TAP. This project is known as TAP R 2017 Mercer County Great Western Bikeway, or GWB, located in the of Hopewell, Borough of Pennington, and Township of Lawrence in Mercer County, New Jersey. We're in the preliminary engineering phase. This project is funded through federal funds through NJDOT Division of Local Aid. And our virtual public information center this evening will be held from 6 to 8 p.m. We're going to go through introductions. We'll start with Mercer County. Sunny? I think you're muted. All right, I think he's still muted. So Matt Lawson?
Sure. Denise, would you like me to do my introductory remarks now?
Yeah, I think we'll introduce the team and then we'll do your remarks.
Sure. Matthew Lawson, Transportation Planner for Mercer County.
And Matt Zalkowski?
Hi, Matt Zalkowski, Senior Planner, Mercer County.
Brian Gibson,
Brian Gibson, Principal Traffic Engineer, Mercer County.
and Sunny.
I'm sorry, yes, my computer froze for some reason. I was desperately trying to text Matt Lawson. I said, Matt, please acknowledge my existence. Good evening,
Okay.
and thank you.
Yeah, that's our Mercer County engineer. NV5, Joe,
Good evening, everyone. I'm Joe Fishinger, Traffic Engineering with NV5.
and Jean,
Hi, my name is Jean Oppel. I'm a highway engineer for NV5.
and Mike.
I am Mike Kyler, NV5 Highway Engineer.
Okay, great. I don't think anyone else from the county logged on. If they do, we can introduce them later on.
Thanks, Denise. Again, my name is Matthew Lawson. I am Principal Planner for Transportation for Mercer County. And as a planner, history is very important. And so I want to introduce this project by talking a little bit about its history. But first, I want to give thanks to a number of people who have been instrumental here, and first and foremost to County Executive Brian Hughes. Brian has supported both the Deputy Administrator, Aaron Watson, and a series of county engineers, now Basit Bosafar, in developing safe multimodal facilities on the county highway network. Mercer County owns and operates about 10% of the highways in Mercer County, and among them, County Route 546, which is the focus of the presentation tonight. I also want to thank the New Jersey Department of Transportation for 3 separate grants that have led to and contribute to this project. And I'll talk about those a little bit more in a minute. One of the most important people I can thank, though, is Cheryl Kastronakis, who's the Executive Director of the Greater Mercer TMA. The TMA, the Transportation Management Association for Mercer County, was formed in the wake of the oil crisis and the Clean Air Act in the 70s to try to move people out of single occupancy vehicles. And the TMA has been doing a really wonderful job in developing programs and reaching out to organizations for support. It's set up explicitly as a public-private partnership, a nonprofit organization that receives federal funds for its programs, but also membership funds from corporations that participate in its programs and try to move their employees out of their single occupancy commutes. And so in support of the TMA, I would just suggest that you ask your employers if they are members of their local transportation management association. It's an important organization nationwide. Back in 2007, Cheryl Kastronakis came to me and George Fallett, then the county traffic engineer, with the request that the county form a bicycle and pedestrian task force to basically coordinate activities between towns to do their task of moving people out of single occupancy vehicles. George and I thought it would be best if the TMA hosted that rather than the county, because that would give the TMA the opportunity to be more of an advocate, and the county could execute its own policies without an internal voice. We could be that internal voice, and we have been. So the TMA formed the Bike Ped Task Force and requested official delegates from mayors and councils of the then 13 municipalities in Mercer County. Now we're 12, Princeton consolidated. And one of the members, Tom Ogren, was serving as the business administrator for East Windsor. And when he commuted home to Pennington every day, he would drive on County Route 546, Pennington-Lawrenceville Road. And his contribution here was that he said, this is a very wide road. You've got 8 to 12-foot shoulders on most of this highway. And it would be very easy to convert those shoulders to bicycle lanes. So Tom is really the instigator for this project. And 2 years after we formed, in 2009, Mercer County put in a grant proposal to NJDOT to fund a study for a bikeway on County Route 546. That was the name of the bikeway at the name of the project at that point. And we executed a contract with Michael Baker to do that study. But when we were having those conversations with NJDOT, Sherry Davis, who was then the director of bicycle and pedestrian programs for DOT, said, well, Mercer County, you've got this bike ped task force. Why don't you do a countywide bicycle master plan? And that resulted in a separate grant from NJDOT to hire the RBA group. The RBA group is the direct predecessor, the same company with a different name that as NV5, who is now under contract for this project. So RBA executed a huge amount of work to put together a multi-jurisdictional bicycle plan for Mercer County. And Sherry Davis had intended for that to be adopted as part of the master plan for Mercer County. But my position was, and County Executive Brian Hughes's position is, that the county does not tell its municipalities what to do. We can coordinate, we can collaborate, but we exist at a different level of organization and don't interfere in municipal projects. And so that plan was a disappointment to me because we couldn't immediately adopt it, but then led to, at that time, I was the only transportation planner for the county, beginning to think about how to execute a master plan specifically for county facilities. The RBA group's proposal for the master plan drew very heavily on county facilities. The county highways, the 500 and 600 routes, are designated that 600 routes in New Jersey travel between municipalities, 500 routes between counties. And so 546 travels not all the way to the shore, but it is a pretty long east-west route. In fact, 546 was intended to be part of a ring road around Trenton back in the 1930 master plan for the county. That was eventually superseded by the construction of Interstate 95 and now 295, that ring road around Trenton. But it was built as a 4-lane highway. And so that's why it had such wide shoulders. That's why it was such a great opportunity as now a 2-lane road to implement a bicycle facility. So in working on the master plan, on a new master plan specifically for the county, I developed a cost calculator looking at the cost of implementing bicycle facilities, whether it would be striping, whether it would be widening, what we would have to do at intersections or might have to do at intersections to accommodate bike facilities. And 546 was one of the target routes. And I took that cost calculator, which now exists in the county bicycle master plan, adopted as part of the overall county master plan. The master plan itself for bikes was completed by Matthew Sikowski, who's on this call and who's been up until now a major force managing the current project. I took the price calculator and I proposed it to NJDOT in this 2017 Regional Transportation Alternatives Program, the TAP-R program, which is why it has that 2017-R name. We did not find out that we had the TAP grant until late in 2018. We began executed a contract with NJDOT for this project, basically to receive the grant in the second quarter of 2018. Went out to RFP, selected NV5 for this project. We've been working diligently on this phase of the project, preliminary engineering, for the Great Western Bikeway. This is a name that I made up to give it a catchphrase in that initial application. And it always worries me now because I have to wonder what is going to be the Great Eastern Bikeway. That's maybe another a topic for another set of plans, another set of projects. But we are now coming to the conclusion of preliminary engineering, which is why we are hosting this public information center to talk about the plan that we have arrived at to advance towards construction in final design and then resulting in bid specifications and a construction contract. What we are advancing now is different from what I'd hoped for in that initial application, which was a more extensive network with legs that would reach down into Ewing and further up into Pennington, making some other connections. But that initial pricing plan that I put together was significantly underestimating the actual costs, both of design and of construction. And so the process that we've been through has resulted in the requirement that we trim back the project to closer to our original thoughts for a 546 bikeway. And so with that introduction, a little bit about the history of the project, I want to turn the floor over to NV5 and Denise DeCuna, who's been a very able project manager for us, for our consultant. So Denise, thanks.
Okay, thanks, Matt. So what we're planning on doing this evening is we'll have a presentation. If more people log on, we'll repeat our presentation at 7:05. After our presentation, we'll open it up to question and answer period. We'll ask that you use the chat box in the webinar. We'll read the questions and we'll answer them. There'll be a 2-week comment period after this Public Information Center. So post-meeting comments or questions, we ask that you send them to Matt Zalkowski, Senior Planner at Mercer County. We're going to give 2 weeks is common what we do for a 2-week comment period. So if you get comments to Matt Zalkowski by March 23rd, it's appreciated. If you can email him, that's the best. His email is up there, mattzalkowski@mercercounty.org. If you want to call him, his number's there, 609-989-6985. So as Matt Lawson said, a little bit of the background of the project, for as far as the purpose of it is the Great Western Bikeway, or GWB, will be the first link in a new planned network of dedicated bicycle facilities throughout Mercer County. The first segment will provide a continuous approximately 10-mile bicycle route running east-west, primarily along Mercer County Route 546 within Hopewell Township, Pennington Borough, and Lawrence Township. There's a few little sections on this first segment that are also along County Route 631 and County Route 632. The bicycle route will further expand the county's promotion of bike travel and provide a link between 2 branches of the DNR Canal State Park Trail, from Washington Crossing State Park to the west and Bakers Basin Road, where across the DNR Canal to the east. It will also complement several other municipal and county walking and biking trail efforts underway, including connections to the Lawrence Hopewell Trail, or LHT as locally known, or Johnson Trolley Trail, JTT. The project design and construction cost is part of a federally funded grant administered through NJDOT Local Aid Transportation Alternatives Program. The focus on this project is to accommodate bicycles. When the grant was submitted, it was to accommodate bicycles was the intent. Mike, if you go to the next slide. So this next slide shows a little bit what Matt Lawson was talking about. The original GWB project consisted of 3 segments, a total of 14.4 miles. Segment 1 is what we're focusing on now. That's the one down the middle, down 546, a little bit of 631 and 632. So although the current project focuses on segment 1, that's really the main backbone of it. Segment 2, which is shown there, is County Route 611, and that's about 2.7 miles, and that would connect the GWB along Scotch Road to recently installed bicycle facilities between Upper Ferry Road and Parkway Avenue in Ewing. And then segment 3 to the top, that's approximately 1.8 miles. That would connect the GWB to downtown Pennington. So these segments 2 and 3 are anticipated to be constructed as roads are repaved, new land development occurs along the corridors, and or more grant funding becomes available. So for the project limits, as we said, if you from the left, so beginning in Hopewell Township, The project limits extend from the western terminus at the entrance of Washington Crossing State Park along Washington Crossing Pennington Road to Ingleside Avenue. The route continues to the north along Ingleside Avenue, or also known as County Route 631, into Pennington to South Main Street. Heading southeast along South Main Street, which is also County Route 640 and County Route 632, it becomes Pennington Road and crosses into Hopewell Township. And then the route continues into Pennington Lawrenceville Road. Proceeding east along Pennington Lawrenceville Road into Lawrence Township, the route continues to Mill Road. The route then follows Mill Road and links to Franklin Corner Road. Resuming east along Franklin Corner Road, the route then continues to Bakers Basin Road at Route US 1. Following Bakers Basin Road, the project limits terminate at Greenberg Road, where it will connect with a separate DOT project, which is this is by the DNR Canal State Park. It's a replacement of the bridge over the DNR Canal. So we're coordinating with DOT with that project to tie into it. So the project location and limits, in addition to the DNR Canal State Park Trail, other trail links include the Johnson Trolley Trail crossing, Curlis Trail, 5 Mile Run Park Trail, 2 connections of the Lawrence Hopewell Trail, the recently constructed Keefe Road connection, and a future Bristol Miles Squibb connection. So for existing conditions, you could see from these pictures and a little bit what Matt talked about in the beginning, Washington Crossing Road, which is 546, Ingleside Avenue, 631, and South Main Street, 640, Pennington Lawrenceville Road, which is 632, and County Route 546, and Franklin Corner Road, which is also County Route 546. They're under county jurisdiction. Mill Road and Bakers Basin Road are under Lawrence Township jurisdiction. So the majority of roadways consist of 2 lane sections, 1 lane in each direction with varying shoulder widths, generally 7 to 8 feet, as Matt mentioned. The left photo shows a section of Pennington Lawrence Road where it does have these wide shoulders. The segment of Franklin Corner Road between Princeton Pike, which is County Route 583, and US 1 consists of a 2-lane section, 1 in each direction, with a continuous 2-way left median lane, and that's shown on the bottom image on the right. Ingleside Avenue and Mill Road are narrow roads without shoulders. The photo on the right side is of Ingleside Avenue, where the lane widths range between 13 and 15 feet. So what we were trying to do is within the existing curb-to-curb widths of the roadways to determine which is the best bicycle facility to fit to avoid impacts. So on this screen, you'll see a series of different sections. And most of the proposed improvements will be constructed within the existing roadway, and that's to minimize impacts to existing drainage, utility poles, properties, environmental impacts. On-road bicycle lanes are proposed for the majority of the 10-mile bike route between Washington Crossing State Park and the DNR Canal State Park Trail at Bakers Basin Road. In several locations where exclusive bicycle lanes cannot be provided due to lack of available width, the bicycle facility will continue with either shared lanes or an off-road shared use path. So the project basically consists of 5 types of bicycle facilities that are shown here. Shared lanes, and we'll get into examples of each of these, but shared lanes is basically where bicycles and vehicles are sharing a lane, and there's pavement markings and signage. Separate bicycle lanes, buffered bicycle lanes where there's a separation between them, 2-way cycle tracks where it's 2-directional bike facility, and shared use paths, which is the one on the bottom, which is separate. In Princeton area, sometimes they call it a side path, but it's a separate facility from the roadway. In addition to these treatments, at 4 high visibility crossings, there'll be what's known as rapid rectangular flashing beacons, or RRFBs, and we'll review those locations. Crossings of state highways along segment 1 will include Route 1, US Route 206, I'm sorry, Route 31, US Route 206, and US Route 1. And we have been coordinating with NJDOT, and that coordination will continue through final design on how the treatments of the bike facilities will occur across those DOT intersections. So now we'll review each of these treatment types to just show you some examples. So for bicycle lanes, both conventional and buffered, the images shown here are examples. For our corridor, they will mostly be buffered where it has that separation. The images follow the guidance of the Manual for Uniform Traffic Control Devices, known as MUTCD, which is like the Traffic Bible, and NATCO, which is known as National Association of City Transportation Officials. The image to the left is an existing conventional bike lane on Reed Road in Hopewell Township. The proposed project will link the bike lane to Ingleside Avenue and Washington Township, Pennington Road, Reed Road intersection, and we'll review those locations. The other images are showing recently constructed bicycle lanes on Scotch Road in Ewing, and the center image is a buffered bike lane where you see that separation. The one on the right and the other two are not the buffered one, they're conventional bike lanes. You can go to the next treatment, which is shared lanes. This treatment is where the roadway width is narrow and we couldn't fit a separate dedicated bike lane, and where the speed limit is low, 35 miles per hour or less. The image in the center of the screen is the pavement marking, and that's as per the direction of MUTCD, which is that Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices. The other images shown with this marking was where it's been recently installed. On the left in Ingleside Avenue in Pennington Borough, and on the right also in Ingleside Avenue. The proposed bike route will connect to these shared lanes. The next one is known as a two-way cycle track. For this project, we'll have only a small section with this treatment. There'll be a striped buffer, and there won't be any bollards or flexible delineators that are shown there. And in the case of a two-way cycle track, there'll be a lane for bicycle traffic in each direction. And the other treatment is known as the shared use path. Like we said, in the Princeton area, it seems like they'll call it a side path. It's also sometimes called off-road. And the difference with this facility, this is meant for bicycles and pedestrians. The shared use path there was one installed recently along Keith Road in Lawrence Township, connecting users to Mercer Meadows and Lawrence Hopewell Trail. This project will link to that connection. So once again, this one it's shared use path, meaning shared with bicycles and pedestrians. And the other design treatment is the RRFBs, or rapid rectangular flashing beacons. The crossings shown are Scotch Road and Johnson Trolley Trail and Pennington Lawrenceville Road, which were recently constructed. The GW project will link to the Jolly Trolley Trail crossing. There's a lot of tongue twisters in this project. The RFBs for this project will be at 4 locations where the route must cross the roadway, and we'll show them on future slides in more detail. So at this time, I'm going to pass it over to our project engineer, Jean Opel, and she will review the progress plans. What we did is, like we said, there's over 10 miles. So we want to show highlights of different areas. So I'll turn it over to Jean at this time.
Thanks, Denise. So this is an overall plan of proposed bicycle route with color-coded treatments. As you can see, the majority of the 10-mile route consists of buffer bike lanes, shown in blue, and conventional bike lanes shown in red. There are 4 crossings enhanced with RFBs. You can also see the several trails that the project provides links to. The next 2 plans will be zoomed in areas as defined by the boundary shown. where we will go into further detail. So signed and striped buffered bike lanes are generally proposed along each side of Washington Crossing Pennington Road or County Route 546 between the Washington Crossing State Park entrance and Ingleside Avenue or County Route 631. There are a few isolated locations where the buffer is dropped due to auxiliary lanes at intersections. A high visibility crossing enhanced with RRFBs is proposed at the Washington Crossing, Pennington Road, Ingleside Ave, Reed Road intersection. Shared lane bikings are to be installed along each side of Ingleside Ave between Washington Crossing, Pennington Road, and South Main Street, or County Route 640, in connection with existing recently installed shared lane markings. Signed and striped conventional bike lanes are proposed along each side of Main Street, or Pennington Road, between Ingleside Avenue and Pennington Lawrenceville Road, or County Route 632. A second high visibility crossing is proposed at the Pennington Road, Pennington Lawrenceville Road intersection. Continuing east, signed and striped conventional bicycle lanes are proposed along each side of Pennington Lawrenceville Road between South Main Street in the vicinity of Blackwell Road on the next plan sheet.
And Jean, just before you start that one, this presentation is being recorded and there will be a PDF of the presentation. So that'll be posted on the county's website. We'll provide that information at the end so that you can zoom in and we understand that the slides are small, but it's a big area to cover.
For Blackwell Road, where Pennington Lawrenceville Road becomes County Route 546 to the approach of US 206, signed and striped buffered bike lanes are proposed along each side of the roadway. Bicyclists will be instructed to dismount to cross the US 206 intersection. Between US 206 and Mill Road, where County Route 546 becomes Franklin Corner Road, a shared use path is proposed along the eastbound side. Mill Road will be paved in its entirety and utilized as a shared lane, connecting to a short section of shared use path along Franklin Corner Road to a crossing. This third crossing is enhanced with RRFBs, crosses Franklin Corner Road to the future Bristol-Myers Squibb connection to the LHT. A two-way cycle track along the westbound side of Franklin Corner Road is proposed between the LHT connection and Princeton Pike. Between Princeton Pike to the last proposed crossing, signed and striped buffered bicycle lanes are proposed along each side of Franklin Corner Road. This last enhanced crossing is located along Franklin Corner Road near Franklin Arms, approximately 1,000 feet west of US 1. Heading east from this crossing, a shared use path along the eastbound side of Franklin Corner Road is proposed to connect to the existing sidewalk approaching US 1, where bicyclists will be instructed to dismount to cross US 1. A shared use path is proposed along the eastbound side of Bakers Basin Road between US 1 and Greenberg Road. The project terminates at Greenberg Road and is being coordinated with NJDOT's Bakers Basin Road over the DNR Canal Bridge Replacement Project, which will link the bicycle route to the DNR Canal State Park Trail. Sorry.
Yeah, so that's fine. So the color coding, like Jean was saying, both in the section that's in the legend and then on the plan shows the different treatments. So yeah, so where there's a yellow shared lanes, and then it corresponds to the yellow that's shown on the graphic. The same thing with the different treatment types.
So for buffered bike lanes, these images are examples of the buffer bike lanes throughout the project. This is the primary treatment utilized. The top left image is along Washington Crossing, Pennington Road near Washington Crossing State Park. The bottom image shows Franklin Corner Road near Princess Road. And the right image is along Lawrenceville, Pennington Road, where there's a recently installed crossing of Johnson Trolley Trail with RRFBs. Conventional bike lanes. So these are examples of conventional bike lanes within the project, generally where the roadway widths are too narrow or to accommodate auxiliary lanes at intersections. The top left image is along South Main Street near Curlis Trail. The bottom right image is along Pennington Lawrenceville Road. And the right image is of the intersection of Scotch Road and Washington Crossing Pennington Road. Due to its width, Ingleside Avenue, shown in these images, will have shared lane markings along its entire length. The left images show some of the recently installed shared lane markings on this project that we'll incorporate into our project as well.
And we did try to, as you said earlier, at a minimum where we would have the shared lanes. You know, it was most desirable to have a separate bike facility, but as Jean said, you know, where it's just too narrow, it'd be significant impacts to everything from right-of-way, utilities, drainage. That's where we have shared lanes.
So the two-way cycle track, these images are examples of the two-way cycle track proposed along the westbound side of Franklin Corner Road. The top image shows the cycle track on the opposite side of interchange 295 exit ramp. By locating the bicycle route along the westbound side, we were able to avoid conflict with the exit ramp. The shared use paths, these images are examples of shared use paths within the project. The image to the left shows the existing sidewalk along Franklin Corner Road and the Morris Hall Meadows property, which will be replaced with a shared use path. The image to the right shows the existing sidewalk along Bakers Basin Road between US 1 and Greenberg Road, replaced with a shared use path. The project terminates at this location and will be coordinated with the DNR Canal Bridge Replacement Project. So these are the 4 high visibility crossings with RRFBs. The center image is a picture of an RRFB recently installed near the Alexander Road over the DNR Canal. The top left image shows the crossing at Pennington Road and Pennington Lawrenceville Road. The lower left image is of the crossing at the future Bristol-Myers Squibb LHT connection at Franklin Corner Road. And the top right image is of the Washington Crossing Pennington Road, Ingleside Avenue, Reed Road intersection. And the lower right image shows the crossing approximately 1,000 feet west of US 1 near Franklin Arms on Franklin Corner Road. So most of the project can be constructed within the existing county right-of-way. There's isolated locations throughout the project that might require small easements to accommodate grading, utility poles, or new sidewalk. I'll now give it back to Denise to discuss the environmental aspects of the project.
Thanks, Jean. So we are using federal funds for this project, and part of the NEPA process for federal funds for environmental, the required environmental document required for this project is known as a CED, or Categorical Exclusion Document. It gets prepared by NJDOT, Bureau of Environmental Program Resources, BEPR, and we will coordinate with them. These CED documents address any potential environmental issues. They look at deforestation. Do you have to clear a lot of trees? They look at cultural resources, ecology, threatened and endangered species, wetlands, air and noise, hazardous public reactions such as this public information center, socioeconomics, and environmental permits. And they do that whether, even if you're just striping a bike lane, it's required. You're using federal funds. You have to have, you know, for construction, you have to assess if there's any impacts during construction and because of the constructed facility. So that's a required document. Other coordination that we'll have is with NJDEP, which is the Department of Environmental Protection. And those anticipated permits include freshwater wetlands permits, flood hazard area permits, stormwater management. Stormwater management is where we are doing any widening or we have an increase in impervious area. We have to address how is that stormwater going to be accommodated. We also have to coordinate with New Jersey State Historic Preservation Office, and that coordination will happen through DOT. New Jersey Pollutant Discharge Elimination System, which is part of the Clean Water Act, and that's to address any potential water pollution. And this is not a major widening for this project, but all these are typical permits that have to be addressed. And then Mercer County Soil Conservation District, same thing, a certification type of approval just due to the construction. So since we're using federal funds, we have to address cultural resources. Mike, you can go to the next slide. So cultural resources are historic properties or both above ground and below ground and archaeological, and federal and state regulations pertaining to the protection of cultural resources referred to respectfully as the Section 106 and the New Jersey Register of Historic Places Act process requires Mercer County NJDOT to take into account the effect of proposed projects, any impacts on cultural resources listed on or eligible for listing on the New Jersey and National Register of Historic Places. These processes require coordination between NJDOT and New Jersey Historic Preservation Office, along with other appropriate consulting and interested parties. So along our corridor, the following cultural resources have been identified in the project's vicinity. It does not mean we're impacting them. They're in the area and they would have to be addressed. 2 National Historic Landmarks, including Washington Crossing State Park and Bear Tavern. 2 resources on the New Jersey and National Register of Historic Places, the Hart Hock House and the John Meyer Wolsey House. 3 historic districts, the Washington Crossing State Park, which is an expanded historic district, Lawrence Township Historic District, and Delaware and Boundbrook Reading Railroad Historic District. 1 property that has received the State Historic Preservation Office opinion of eligibility, which is Aldous Smith Merson Farm. 11 resources identified as potentially eligible, and 11 resources identified but not yet assessed. And then there's also 6 recorded archaeological grids. So what does this mean? HPO will determine if there's an impacts based upon the footprint of our project, and they will require if any mitigation is necessary due to any potential impacts. As far as next steps, we're going to review comments received from the Public Information Center tonight in the 2-week comment period. We'll work together with the county and complete the preliminary plans if there's any refinements based upon input we received. Then we have a complete footprint of the project and we coordinate with DOT for the environmental document, the CED, the categorical exclusion document. That's required when we make a preliminary engineering submission, and it's required before we go into the next phase, which is known as final design. So our anticipated project schedule is to complete this phase, which is preliminary engineering, in the fall. The reason why it'll take a few months is that it's going to take a little bit of time for the Bureau of Environmental Program Resources to pull together the CED. They have a lot of coordinations with a lot of different agencies. So we're hoping that this can be completed by the fall, with the final design phase occurring next year, and hopefully an anticipated construction start for fall of 2023. So at this time, we're going to open up for questions. We ask that you use the chat box to type in your question. We'll read the question. If we get a lot of similar questions, we'll combine that and we'll say, hey, there's a lot of questions pertaining to this or that. If after this meeting you do have any questions or comments, we ask that you contact Max Zelkowski. And we're going to close the comment period March 24th. So if you give your comments by March 23rd, we'll have everything in order, because we need that information to pull together to do a complete comment resolution summary. What that means is that if you have questions or comments, we'll type out a document that says these were the questions and these were the responses, and that information gets included in that environmental document that DOT will be preparing. Matt Salkowski's contact information is there below. Senior Planner at Mercer County Department of Planning, 640 South Broad Street, P.O. Box 8068 in Trenton, New Jersey, 08650. Preferred method would be email at mountzelkowski@mercercounty.com. It's MZOCHOWSKI at mercercounty.com. His phone number is 609-989-6985. And we appreciate everyone's interest and your input in this project. So we'll open it up to questions.
Yeah, it looks like we have a few already in.
Okay, great.
The first question up is, at the end of the trail, it starts at the end of Washington Crossing Park entrance. What is the reasoning for not continuing all the way down to the river where a lot of bicyclists travel to now?
Yeah, so.
Yeah, I'll take that. But Denise,
Okay.
I first want to correct Zakowski's email address.
Oh, geez, okay.
Yeah, so the suffix is not .com, it is .org, mercercounty.org.
Okay, thank you.
So,
I think we
yeah,
got it right on
take it for granted.
the other, yeah, I think we had it right on the other slide. Thank you.
Good catch, Matt.
So,
I thought I messed up Zalkowski and I said, how did that happen?
We write it so often, we miss it sometimes.
So in response to the question, this was troubling to us too. We really wanted to
Yeah.
take the bikeway all the way down to the canal at Washington Crossing. And the issue really was that right down at the intersection with Route 29, there's a historic stone wall, there's a historic ferry house, and we would have required widening of that intersection to accommodate a bicycle lane. Our goal here is to provide a bicycle facility that is comfortable for kids who are 5 years old, for families. And in order to do that, we could not have the bike lane simply end at a very busy state highway intersection. And with the opportunity to dodge into the park and use the pedestrian overpass that's part of the park, that gave us the opportunity to provide a safe facility right down to the DNR Canal State Park. It was painful, but we've had to make a lot of painful decisions as part of this project.
And just to add to that, we did meet with the park because as Matt said, the original intent was to go all the way to 29. When we looked at the impacts and the severity of the impacts and how it would affect the project, then we did have a meeting with the park.
Okay. Let's see the next question up. Are there plans to create a path under the power lines that would connect Reed Road in Hopewell Township to the end of Dunnow Road in Hopewell Township to use a controlled intersection across Route 31?
That would be a wonderful connection. We have not considered that as part of this project. The reason for coming up Scotch Road rather than Reed Road, rather than Lower Ferry Road, which changes into Reed Road, is that there are already wide shoulders on much of Scotch Road, and we could connect to Ewingville Road in Ewing Township. Lower Ferry does connect up to the bikeway, and there are bike lanes striped in the Hopewell Township portion of that road. But to go off road on a power line right of way was not. We were trying to do this within the existing right of way, within the existing cartway, within the existing pavement. And so it became very, it would be very expensive, very difficult to conceive of a project like that. I would note that there is, I'm working with the Greater Mercer TMA to organize a workshop in June to begin to talk about trail connections like that. How can we make those sorts of trail connections? That's logical. It would make a lot of sense to be able to get to Dunnow Road and the relatively dense housing along Dunnow, and another connection over to Lawrence Township.
The next question is, how will the trail cross Route 31? That currently is a very difficult crossing. And a similar question is, will there be a safer crossing at Route 31 and Ingleside?
The safer crossing of Route 31 is something that's been troubling to us from the start. When Michael Baker did the initial trail plan, we decided to use Ingleside and Main Street and the first segment of Pennington Lawrenceville Road, because that way we could avoid putting cyclists through Pennington Circle. Pennington Circle is a pretty dangerous facility for cyclists. It's high speed, and going up Ingleside across 31 there would have provided overall a safer passage for cyclists. The crossing at 31 has been discussed for a long time. There's currently a yellow flashing beacon there. We have discussed at various times a variety of different alternatives with NJDOT to signalize that intersection. It doesn't meet warrant for a traffic signal. There's a metering signal that was installed for Pennington Circle a little bit further to the south, and that will provide some breaks in traffic at some hours of the day. If we, and this is another set of those hard decisions that we faced for this project. If we are to touch anything at a state highway intersection, NJDOT requires us to bring that intersection up to contemporary standards and in all aspects of the intersection. And so even, so for example, at the US 1 crossing or the US 206 crossing, there are deficiencies there for the pedestrian facilities, for traffic operations, and to expect those to be accomplished by a grant of this size for a project of this scope would consume all of our resources. And so the intersection of 31 at Ingleside is a little bit different, because our expectation was for all of those state crossings that we would ask cyclists to dismount and cross as pedestrians. There are already pedestrian facilities at 206 and at US 1, and so we've wanted to take advantage of those. At Ingleside and 31, the situation is a little bit different, but this project has developed a plan for a pedestrian crossing at that location that will enable cyclists to cross as pedestrians. I'm not sure, Gene, if you could pull up that
Yeah, that's our
design sketch.
I was going to say which plan sheet. Gene, Mike could pull it from the PDF.
Oh, for Ingleside and Route 31?
Ingleside and 31.
Let's see.
Again, many tough decisions here.
It's on C22 or C.
Go to page 31.
Ingleside
in the
Reed is. Yeah, Mike, if you go to the PDFs of the drawings.
Mhm. Getting it now.
So C22, which is probably
This one?
there's a few pages in the beginning of it.
31 in Ingleside.
Different than my copy. That's at Reed and Ingleside. So a PDF of these plans, it's actually almost 70 sheets. So we have a link to that also on the county site, a progress set.
Am I wrong about that? Yeah, that's 31. So there's no improvements on this shown on that sheet.
Yeah, Gina, I did the hard copy printout, so I don't have the PDF, so I'm looking for it. It says.
Well, maybe my
Well,
memory
we'll
is
find
faulty.
that. It's there. We're trying to pull up the right sheet.
Maybe we can move to the next question in the meantime.
Yeah, and we'll pull that one up.
The next question, how will the exit ramp from I-295 to Franklin Corner Road be made safe?
There's no way to make it safe.
Yeah.
And so that is one of the locations, and using Mill Road in Lawrence Township is another issue. What I had imagined when I planned the expansion of the 546 Bikeway plan, which did not include anything east of 206, was that the most expensive portion would be between 206 and Franklin Corner Road, where that interchange happens and where the road becomes very narrow. There's no shoulders. There's drainage right next to the roadway. There's power lines, utility poles right next to the roadway. Lawrence Township came up with the recommendation of using Mill Road and diverting off of Franklin Corner Road, still County Route 546 through that area. And that's why we go next to Morris Hall with a side path, and then on Mill Road over to where it comes back out on 546, just west of the crossing of 295, the 295 overpass. It's at that point that we can put in a crossing of 546 And it's at that point, at that specific location where Bristol Myers Squibb is expecting to put a trail connection out to County Route 546. And so that crossing will afford another opportunity to connect to the LHT, but it also allows us to cross over to the north side of 546 Franklin Corner Road, where we are planning to put in a side path over to Princeton Pike. That side path allows cyclists to travel on the opposite side of the road from that interchange, from that entrance ramp or the exit ramp from 295 onto 546. And so since we can't do anything with that ramp that would be safe for cyclists to cross, we're taking the path onto the other side of the roadway.
And just to add to that, we did have some coordination meetings with NJDOT subject matter experts to try to brainstorm and see what other type of improvements. Mike, you have access to the PDF unless Gene, I don't know if Gene can take control.
I have the PDF for the plan set.
Yeah.
Yeah, back on. Sorry about that.
Yeah. So like C55 in that area is where Franklin Corner Road crosses over 295, and we have the two-way cycle.
Yeah, there.
Okay, great. Why don't we do that one first, Gene? Okay, so these were some of the questions that we had earlier. We were just trying to pull up. They're very large files, so we appreciate bearing with us.
So this shows the crossing just west of the crossing of 295. And the previous sheet to the west shows the segment on Mill Road.
Right.
And so Mill Road is an existing public street. It's primarily used as a driveway. Lawrence Township is planning to pave it as part of their annual paving program in the next year or two. And so that will be available as not as a public street, but as a multi-purpose path that is off 546, but allows people to make that connection and continue on the bike route.
Let's see. The next question or comment is, I live at the corner of Ingleside and Route 31 in Hopewell Township. It is one of, if not the most dangerous intersection in the township. While I love this project, I have real concerns about the safety of the intersection and the township stretch of Ingleside. Despite the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit, people use it as a cut through, and it is not unusual to see people tracking 40 to 50 miles an hour on the road. Launching this without an extensive safety campaign would be incredibly dangerous. Our families witnessed, I believe, at least 3 motor vehicle accidents at the corner in February alone.
At the corner, I suppose, of Ingleside and 31. The MUTCD recommends, and the NJDOT Complete Streets Design Guide recommends shared use paths on, or not shared use paths, but shared facilities, bicycles sharing the road with motor vehicles on roads 35 miles an hour or less. Oh, this is another one of those tough locations. So this is the call out here is the plan sheet for 31 and Ingleside. And we had talked extensively about alternatives here, and I'm not seeing it. So I was imagining a previous alternative before that conversation with the NJDOT subject matter experts. This would be another location where we would have to bring the entire intersection up to contemporary standards.
Yeah, Mike Keller, as we're going over the plan sheets, if you could park the PowerPoint.
So we're sensitive to the
Great,
dangers
thank you.
of share the road. The speeding is a matter of enforcement on the part of Hopewell Township and Pennington Borough. and there's not a whole lot that we can do about it. One of the things that we would have a lot of difficulty doing is widening Ingleside to put in a bike path or a bike lanes. And that might raise further objections or much greater objections from the property owners from whom we would have to acquire right of way. It would also explode the cost of this project overall. We're trying to stay within the safety guidance of the Federal Highway Administration and the MUTCD. There's limited control that we can have over road users. Denise, do you want to make any more comments about this intersection, this crossing?
Well, I think the stakeholders' concern was that they feel it's already a dangerous intersection, and now we're going to be introducing bikes. Bikes are already there. To make it safer by pavement markings and signing and striping where we could keep a separate facility, we are doing that. But as Matt said, it's difficult without impacts to adjacent properties, utilities, drainage, environmental. So that's why we're not just widening everywhere to keep in that facility. Maybe it could be something as part of another planned project. Joe, I don't know if you have anything else to offer as far as a safety standpoint. We did try to see what, the best facility we could at each location. And as Matt said, in some cases, we just don't have the available room at this time without these other impacts.
The only thing I'll add to this is we've already started conversations with the DOT, and those are going to have to continue into the next phase, into final design, because we don't have a magic bullet, a simple answer to this intersection. So instead of showing a concept that hasn't been vetted with DOT and they haven't agreed to yet, that's part of the reason why we're at the Sharrows. As we continue our conversations in the next design phase with the state, we'll be able to come up with a plan that can improve safety and work for everyone. But right now, we're just not there yet, that we haven't come to an agreement with the DOT as to what we can reasonably put there that will improve conditions and stay within the confines of this grant program and the budget of this project.
But those discussions have been initiated as part of this preliminary design, and they will continue with final design.
The next comment, we need to add Kings Highway Historic District to your list of historic districts.
Okay, thank you.
Kings Highway Historic District would be US 206, presumably.
Yeah, we'll check.
Okay.
Will the speed limit on Franklin Corner Road be reduced?
That's a good question. The bicycle facilities that we are implementing here, again in compliance with the NJDOT Complete Streets Design Guide and the MUTCD, are in relation to the posted speeds on those roads. Mercer County is considering a variety of different ways to control speeds. The road diet on the 4-lane section of Franklin Corner Road is one of the ways to do that, basically to provide platooning, and the slowest vehicle in the platoon will meter traffic. But basically we're trying to put in bicycle facilities that are safe according to the limits of the roadway width that we can achieve, and where we can lower speed limits, given the methods outlined in the manual on uniform traffic control devices, we will do so. But those are technical questions that have to do with the design of the roadway, the design speed of the roadway with the observed speed of traffic, and a variety of other factors. We cannot magically change the speed limit to make it what we wish. We have to comply with the law. Joe, would you add anything to that or correct any misstatement I may have made?
No, everything you said was correct. The only thing I'll add to that is we typically, in order to reevaluate the speed limit, we really want to see if there's any changes to the road. So it's something that the county, I don't want to speak for the county, but the county will most likely do once this project's constructed and in place and we've made the changes, that hopefully the changes to the roads, the visual changes, the signs, the striping, the narrowing, that will slow speeds down to enough that when the county reevaluates it, they can consider adjusting the speed limit in accordance with the MUTCD. That you're right, you can't just go change the sign. We've got to do a study and make sure that the speeds are within their appropriate range.
Joe, you're
That's
right on the
something-
money. This is Sunny. I would love nothing more than reduced speeds on roads, but as Joe pointed out, once we implement these changes on the road diet, it should make a difference. It'll bring the speed down, and when we do the speed study, that would give us the data and the backup that we need to, if the data shows that we can reduce the posted speed limit, we will gladly do so. As far as I'm concerned, bicycle safety is paramount. I am a cyclist myself, and I would love nothing more than making it very safe and obviously for the cyclists along with the vehicular traffic. But I fully recognize that, you know, I'm going down the road on two wheels, and you know, whatever we can do, we will do to make it safe.
One of the following comments is similar to what we just discussed. I live on Lawrenceville Pennington Road. Is there going to be a speed reduction on the road? Both ends are 35, but the middle is 40. These folks are going way too fast for bikes to be added into the mix.
To reiterate what Sunny just said and what Joe said, if we can change the psychology of the road for the drivers by narrowing lanes, adding bicycle buffers, basically changing the perception of the roadway, we can also potentially change the speeds at which people drive. That's our hope.
Mike Keller, can you put up the second page of the plan PDF? And that shows the different treatments and the locations of where they'll occur. Just to have up while we have our discussion here.
Mhm.
So it shows different types of treatments that we went through and where they'll occur. We understand not everyone knows which milepost, where every milepost is, but they're on the plan set that will be available. The full plan set will be available, posted on the website along with this video presentation and the PowerPoint.
Hey, Joe, I'm sorry I keep on harping on this, but I also want to bring something to the forefront of all the residents and my engineers that are listening here, that we are making all lanes, vehicular lanes 11 feet. Whenever we touch a road, whether it's paving, whether it's striping, the lane width goes from 12 feet to 11 feet. That in itself makes a difference because the road looks narrower. And as we are moving forward, we have done many roads already in the last year or so, and we can see the results already. There's increased bicycle traffic on the roads that we have implemented this, and I'm really hopeful, really hopeful that we will see similar results here.
The
Use the
next comment.
chat box. Okay, great. Because I guess, Mike, you're getting them sooner than the rest of us.
Yeah, there's a significant amount of questions and comments
Okay,
on this
great.
list now.
Okay, great.
The next one up is, if these improvements are for commuters, do you really think anyone is going on Mill Road in Lawrence between 206 and 295?
If they value their lives, then they should do that. Yes. You know, it's a very narrow road and speeds are high. There's few driveways. And I think that they will recognize that as a much more comfortable and safer facility. It's a very, very limited detour from the main line.
Let's see. Next comment is, are the chat box questions officially entered? I guess
Yes.
I can probably answer that. As a part of this
Yeah.
webinar, we're both recording the audio and video, but we're also going to collect analytics data. So we'll have the questions and we'll prepare a comment resolution summary following the meeting.
Yeah, and we had originally said, Mike, I didn't see anybody new log on, and if we have a lot of questions, I'll leave it up to the county's decision. But instead of repeating the presentation, since this is being taped, can we just continue with the questions?
I think that's appropriate. Yes.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so as Mike said, anything in the chat box, if we do not get to it, we have that recorded.
Okay, the next comment was, we went through the presentation pretty quick and they had troubles following what we said. They heard something about requiring bicyclists to dismount. Can you please explain that?
Once again, this is at crossings of state highways where the county highway crosses a state highway. Many of those crossings we've talked about Ingleside, and we have spent a great deal of time thinking about US 206 and US 1, and the cost of bringing those into compliance with contemporary standards is very high. US 206 is the former Kings Highway. It is the route that it's the former portage for the Lenni Lenape between the Raritan and the Delaware watersheds. It's a road that goes back thousands of years, and the ability to do something there for this project is simply far beyond our scope. We're hopeful that NJDOT, and we understand that NJDOT is planning some improvements at 206, and we're hoping that they can take into consideration the need for bicycle facilities at this location and consider their own complete streets policy when undertaking that improvement. US 1, there are already pedestrian crossings marked at every location, and to widen that roadway, to widen the intersection, to add bicycle lanes would be a very, very steep expense. And so we are doing here what bicyclists are often expected to do in a modern roundabout, which is to use the sidewalk or to act as pedestrians for a safe crossing of a busy highway facility. I hope that responds adequately to the question. But yes, we're expecting cyclists to dismount at those dangerous crossings.
The next question is, are there any provisions for street cleaning along Washington Crossing Pennington Road? The wide shoulder that currently exists makes it among the better roads to ride on in the area, but they are frequently full of car debris, gravel, and litter.
That's a great question. I think that is a question that I will present to our highway division and see if they can send a street sweeper out there. The NGIPT's, the non-point discharge elimination system, requires us to sweep the roadway. I believe the schedule is once every 3 months for curbed roads under 35 miles an hour. And most of this route is not that. But I think that we could consider sending our sweepers out there, particularly if it's marked as a bicycle facility. But that's a question that I will bring to our highway department and see if we can get that cleared off.
see, next question. Have any of the proposed segments got a negative public or municipal pushback?
Not to date. In fact, Lawrence Township has been quite eager to see this project and supportive of it, as evidenced in the inclusion of Mill Road to allow us not to have to widen 546 through that segment. There is further interest in that Mill Road and Morris Hall segment because of the multiple connections to the Lawrence Hopewell Trail and to the Johnson Trolley Trail that are afforded by the bike route. Hopewell Township is also very positive. Pennington Borough has been, would be excited and has been excited about the improvements that we've made to Ingleside to add the shared road markings. So no, we have not had pushback from municipalities. On the contrary, they've been very supportive of this.
And just to add to that, Matt, so we're in preliminary engineering. Each phase, since we are using federal funds, will include public outreach. So that's local officials briefings and a public information like we're having tonight. There will also be one in final design.
Let's see, the next question up. Given that the shoulders are already wide, this may not have much of an environmental impact. But would you expect demand for new bike trails within your destination at Washington Crossing State Park? Has there been any talk of any new connections with the state park to Ted Stiles Preserve at Baldpate Mountain? If so, would that increase bike and foot traffic within environmentally sensitive areas and to the proposed Quarry Park? And has there been any discussion of any future connections with bike lanes, trails in Hopewell Township? And if so, where?
Ooh, that's a big question. So
Well, I think part of it, Matt, we did discuss with the state park.
Yes.
They come in droves. So I know that is something that we did talk about, at least with Washington, that they're getting there now. You're making it safer for them to get there now. I think that was part of the question. You're saying if you're going to be, making it more better accommodation for cyclists to go there, more will enter the park.
Yeah, I'm primarily a mountain biker because I'm scared of motor vehicles on the highway, and so I ride at Washington Crossing Park, the Ted Stiles Preserve at Baldpate Mountain. I do not anticipate this bikeway as contributing to higher bike traffic through at least Mercer County's park. Between the road network within Washington Crossing Park, there is on Brickyard Road a crossing over to Church Street, and that offers a mountain bike and trail connection into the Ted Stiles Preserve. But I do not foresee the Mercer County Park Commission improving that to the standard that we're talking about here as something that would be comfortable for a road cyclist. There are also wide shoulders on County Route 579 up past Washington Crossing Park and further north. We don't have plans at this point to develop that into a complementary bikeway, but it is a relatively safe facility for road cyclists. So I think that most road cyclists, if they want to travel further north, would ride up 579 to Church Street or to Pleasant Valley Road and access the Ted Stiles Preserve that way.
There's also the potential of taking the LHT, going through Mercer Meadows and heading to Hopewell Borough through the LHT.
Okay, let's see, the next comment. As a resident of Hopewell Township and a biker, I'm very happy to hear about this project. However, as a resident on Ingleside Avenue, I have concerns about the path along Ingleside. I have two main concerns. The flashing light at Ingleside and Route 31 is a dangerous location for any type of vehicle to cross. I am concerned about you directing bike traffic to cross at this location. What are the plans to make this safe crossing for any biker? And my next concern is about traffic along Ingleside itself. Although their posted speed limit is 25 miles an hour on this roadway, traffic frequently travels well beyond that speed. Considering that you are making it shared road, what are your plans to make this safe for bikers?
I addressed most of that question earlier. And I think that it's important for the public to consider costs to county taxpayers for road widening and making Ingleside a safer facility. A road widening is on this order of magnitude would typically be about $1 million a mile. Maybe more with the acquisition of right-of-way and moving utility poles. That's not within the scope of this project. I would also, ask you to consider what the alternatives to using Ingleside would be, as we did when Michael Baker did that initial study. And that alternative would be directing bicycles through Pennington Circle. I would invite you to consider that, and which would be a safer alternative. Bicycles, by state law, are permitted on all roads and highways in New Jersey except limited access routes. And by law, they are allowed to be there. We are trying to create a safer condition by improving the facility, by striping and signing the facility so that we advertise to motorists that cyclists may also be there and that they have a right to use the roadway. The signage for Ingleside is bicycles may use full lane. So by law, they must use that full lane. I don't see what more we can do without a multi-million-dollar improvement just to that road segment.
The next comment up. Hi, sorry I tuned in late and you probably addressed this. I live on Franklin Corner Road and cycle frequently. The road has gotten increasingly dangerous. The existing shoulder is not adequate. Will there be a dedicated bike lane along Franklin Corner Road? Also, is there any provisions for crossing 206?
The only provision for crossing 206 is as a pedestrian with the existing pedestrian crossings. We have been in discussion and will continue in discussion with NJDOT about safety improvements at that intersection. We also understand that the Lawrenceville School is making changes to its historic gate at that intersection, and that may afford some other opportunities for safer crossing. If Franklin Corner Road has a variety of different cross sections, and so without knowing which specific section of Franklin Corner Road, it's very hard to respond to that question.
Yeah, so what's shown on the screen is showing the different type of treatments, as Matt was saying. So depending upon, I guess, where the stakeholder lives along Franklin Corner Road, it could a few different treatments.
Next question. Is it safe to assume that cars will not be able to park on these bike paths?
Yes.
Next comment. A traditional bike lane on a 35+ mile-an-hour road is not appropriate for a 5-year-old. Is there no possibility for segregating more path?
As a planner with an eye to the future and hope for the future, I always hope that there is that possibility. Our goal here was to try to stay within the existing cartway to the extent possible to create a safer facility compliant with federal guidance. And it would be wonderful if we could offer a separated facility for the entire length of this. In the near future, from a fiscal responsible perspective, that's simply not possible. It may be that in future years and future decades that the means of mobility changes enough with automated vehicles, potentially with smaller vehicles, that we can claim more of the roadway for multimodal transportation. But in the near future, this is what we're stuck with, and to be a responsible steward of the taxpayers' money that I also pay, it's hard for me to consider tens of millions of dollars, maybe scores of millions of dollars to create a separated facility on this entire route.
Matt, I think that comment came when you gave your opening remarks. I think it was meant that, goal of the project initially was for something that wasn't just for the serious cyclists and something where family, and you used the terminology, take a 5-year-old. So I think that's where that comment is coming from.
That was in response to that question about the park entrance at Washington Crossing Park. But yes, that's, if we could do that, we would do that. But the expense is high.
The next two comments are from the same attendee, somewhat related. If there is a requirement to dismount at Tribe US 1, will the traffic light timing be changed? Walking across the intersection as opposed to the normal riding through it may be difficult, especially for seasoned road bikers.
So Joe, do you want to, it's a DOT signal, but do you want to address how the, different ways?
Crossing time.
So the signal should already be timed that if a pedestrian pushes the button, that if you're walking across, you have enough time to get across the intersection. As we proceed into final design, we'll work with the state to make sure that that requirement is met. That Route 1 has been updated relatively recently, so the pedestrian timing should meet current standards, which are for 3.5 feet per second is the standard, but is a fairly slow walking speed. So if you push the button and step off when the walk signal goes on, you'll have enough time to walk across the intersection at a slow pace. I'm sure that would be enough to get somebody with a bicycle across as well. But that is something we'll verify when we get into final design to make sure that that those timings meet that requirement.
Let's see, the person also commented saying, by the way, congrats to this group. My son and I biked across the US from Oregon to Virginia, August through October, and the 4,280 miles that were essentially all on roads and streets without bike lanes. So bravo to this group. We also live on Pennington Lawrenceville Road. The next comment, sorry I've joined late. Will the 28 slides be available for viewing on the webpage?
Yes, so the presentation is being recorded. In addition, the slides will be on the webpage and a progress set of the plan sheets. So what you see up right now is just one of the plan sheets, but there's over 70 plan sheets. So there'll be a link to those plan sheets as well. They're progress print phase at this time. So yes.
It's similar to another few comments that we also got in. Apologies for getting on late. Yeah. Let's see. Next one is any connections envisioned to Hopewell Borough?
To Hopewell Borough. That would probably be through the Lawrence Hopewell Trail. There are conversations happening between the LHT board and Hopewell Borough to try to create a multi-purpose path of similar construction to the other segments of the LHT, and that would provide an off-road alternative. It's tough because it's through private property, and Carter Road, which would be a logical connection there, is through environmentally sensitive areas and does not have very wide shoulders. So road connection to Hopewell Borough would be very tough to do. That's not anticipated as part of this project by any means.
The next question, This is a great concept, but a problem took place on Reed Road in Hopewell Township at Route 546. This was installed, but it didn't seem that the property owners were consulted. When the bikeway was installed, the visitors of these property owners could no longer allow visitors to park on the road. Are you going to reevaluate this bikeway, and will this problem take into consideration in the future?
If this is in reference to the bicycle lanes on Reed Road, that is a Hopewell Township facility, and the county did not have any role or responsibility in the construction of the painting of those bike lanes. We are anticipating making changes to the intersection of Reed Road, Ingleside with County Route 546. It's complicated by the railroad overpass just to the west, but we are anticipating significant improvements there that will make that the visibility of that crossing safer, and the overall condition safer at that intersection.
And just to add to that, for this project, we sent out over 2,000 invitations. So anyone along the corridor, even if something's just being striped, they did receive an invitation. And in the next phase, if there is parking that's impacted, there has to be an ordinance, would have to be updated. So those procedures would be followed.
Next question up, I think we already covered. As the route approaches Route 1 on Franklin Corners Road, are you proposing the cyclists go on the sidewalk? Is this two-way bikes on the sidewalk?
Denise, do you want to take that?
That's at the approach. Jean, you want to go to that sheet?
Yeah, Kyler, 72.
Yeah.
That's Route 1.
Yeah, so Jean, want to talk about the treatment here? We wouldn't be directing cyclists onto a sidewalk.
I think the question was about 206.
Oh, what? Oh, sorry.
I thought they
go
said
to
Route
page-
1. Mike, could you repeat the
Route
question?
1 and as for Route, as you approach Route 1 on Franklin Corners Road, are you proposing
Okay.
cyclists go on the sidewalks?
Yeah, I guess you can even go back a sheet. We are proposing a shared use path approaching Route 1.
So a bicycle lanes to the west of the match line here would have a pedestrian crossing with a pedestrian refuge island offset, and then minor widening of the sidewalk, 10 foot for a 10-foot cycle track.
And then they would be directed to dismount at the end of the shared use path as it approaches Route 1.
Yeah, so when the stakeholder said sidewalk, when it's a shared use path, it's for cyclists and pedestrians.
Let's see. Next question up. Why are the buffered bike lanes not going to have flexible bollards or a hard curb? If there's room for buffering, why wouldn't a hard separation be possible? And given the speeds of traffic involved, a paint-only solution may provide a false sense of security at best.
For Mercer County, this is a maintenance question. We have to plow we have to plow snow. We have to sweep the streets. And for a facility of this length, and for all of our facilities, to buy smaller equipment and take that equipment on a narrower roadway is a challenge from a maintenance perspective and a capital investment perspective. So we have considered that, and in developing guidance in the Mercer County Bicycle Master Plan and in consultation with NJDOT about acceptable standards relative to their Complete Streets Design Guide, a painted buffer is sufficient. That allows us to maintain the road at a reasonable cost.
And that buffer, it's a 2-foot buffer that's proposed.
Next comment, safety should be taken as first priority, even if the project needs to be smaller. I guess that's referring to the other two segments.
The project has
Next
gotten
comment.
smaller because we have to create a safe facility.
Next comment, please tell folks how to use the chat, which in GoToWebinar, if you want to ask questions, you can use the question dialog, which is, I believe, on the side of your screen. Even though I think my version looks a little bit different than yours, it should have a place to type in questions that I'll see and then give the question to the group.
Yeah, and if anyone can't figure that out, Mike, if you put up that last slide or put up the earlier slide that has the correct, oh, he changed it already. Yeah, you can email any questions to Matt Zelkowski at mzelkowski@mercercounty.org. But if they hover over and they go into, there's like a little question mark, I think we see it, our setup looks a little bit different as panelists, but from what I recall, they asked you the question.
Yeah.
So that was a trick question. That was like, do you need motorcycle doors?
Let's see. The next one up is the only difference between a buffered bike path and a non-buffered bike path is one stripe and two stripes.
So the buffer has the, separation of 2 feet. If you go back to that graphic. Where we have the separation, the buffered bike lane will have additional separation. So that's obviously more desirable where we could fit that. Where it's tighter, we have just the conventional bike lane, and where it's really tight, we have the shared lanes.
And the striping is different. The regular bike lane is a 4-inch line. The buffered bike lane is that 2-foot space with two 8-inch lines. So it does create a bigger separation.
Thanks. And then what we didn't want is the facility to change abruptly. So what we had to look at is, how the facility best fits the existing land use without significant impacts and without, abruptly changing it as you're riding along the corridor.
I believe we covered this comment several times in the past. Will there be any speed limits reductions? Let's see.
Yeah, if we addressed that at some length earlier in the call, and I think it would be best to recover that from the recording or from the notes that will follow with the account of this meeting. We are considering speed limit changes. We have to do that within the confines and requirements of the manual on uniform traffic control devices, which requires speed studies. We're hoping that changes to the geometry of the roadway, the striping, and the presence of bicycles will encourage drivers to drive at more moderate speeds.
The next question up. Given the 295 exit on Franklin Corner Road, multiple office complexes on Franklin Corner Road, how can a two-way bicycle path safely accommodate right turns on westbound Franklin Corner Road, since drivers are routinely only looking towards their left on oncoming traffic when making right-hand turns?
When making right-hand turns. Denise or Joe, so the cycle track is on the left side of the roadway.
It's on sheet C55. I think that's the
You can go
area.
to page 6. Oh, Kyler, go to 64. Yeah, there you go.
Unless they're part of the cycle track. So their question is, in areas where there's driveways, in the vicinity of a 2-lane cycle track, is that what the question is?
Mhm.
Mhm.
And about right-hand turns.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be signage, there's gonna be pavement markings and signage, so as people are exiting, they would be expect, just like as they were looking for, you know, for traffic.
Mhm.
Seems like the next question is also related to this area. Need additional signage at the exit ramp on Franklin Corner Road to prohibit U-turns northbound. Have seen this occur on multiple occasions.
So that's just driver behavior where they're making a U-turn there. And is it, yeah, you wonder if that's something with signage, if they're making that U-turn, is it for some type of convenience, or they
Mhm.
didn't realize where they were going? An unsafe convenience.
The next question is, are bike lanes granted special protections for cyclists in the motor vehicle codes?
To the extent that a double line for a buffered bicycle lane delineates an alternative travel lane, then there are protections afforded to cyclists. By signing and delineating, we are hoping to create a safer condition. By restricting parking, we're hoping to create a safer condition. Driving on the shoulder is illegal in New Jersey. It's considered a breakdown lane or a safety lane. And so if you are traveling on the shoulder or in a formal bike lane in New Jersey, you're not in a travel path for motor vehicles. Joe, do you want to detail that, or am I speaking out of turn?
No, you're pretty much right on target, Matt. Yes, if a car is driving in a shoulder when it shouldn't be, or in a bike lane, then if an officer catches them, they'll get a ticket. They shouldn't be in the bike lanes. And as you said, signing it and striping it, making it more obvious that that's the purpose, should hope to curb any of those issues more, to make it more obvious that a vehicle shouldn't be there.
The next question is, same area again. Right now, Lawrence residents living south of 295 have to cross the highway on and off ramps on Princeton, Pike, or 206, or take Franklin Corner Road under the highway, which you know is hairy. Am I correct in understanding that the best way for South Lawrence residents to access LHT after the bikeway is built would be to take Princeton, Pike North, and then turn left on Franklin Corners Road to get to Lawrenceville Village? Or would there be another safe way for those living along 206 south of 295 to cross over and detour around the highway?
Well, these are questions about bicycle routes and travel ways that are beyond the scope of this project. I know that there is advocacy and effort by a variety of people and organizations to extend the Johnson Trolley Line over Interstate 295 to connect North and South Lawrence. But that is an abiding concern. Being able to get between the segments of Lawrence Township is an abiding concern for the county, and something that we have been working in many ways with NJDOT and other stakeholders on.
The next question, would traffic calming be an option on Ingleside? Also, has a hawk signal been considered?
The shared use markings on Ingleside. We hope we'll have a traffic calming effect. And I presume that the hawk signal is in reference to the crossing at New Jersey 31. Certainly we have considered a hawk signal. We have talked to NJDOT about a hawk signal. We've talked to NJDOT about signalizing that intersection, about pedestrian crossings at that intersection, about moving the metering light for the Pennington Circle up to that location. We are continuing discussions with NJDOT and have not reached a conclusion about what we can install there to create a safer crossing.
It appears the next three comments are also related to the same area too. They go on to say, yeah, Route 31 crossing is a death trap. I would never use that on a bike. Is it possible to install radar speed signs along this area? And could a pedestrian cycle activated push button be installed?
Ditto.
And I think also on Ingleside and Reed, that was the offset intersection where we looked at a number of alternatives. Mike, that's at C22.
Page 31.
31, yeah. We have two different sets, so sorry about that. So at this side of Ingleside, we looked at a number of different configurations.
Right. The intersection is obviously constrained with the mini mart there.
The next question, Franklin Corner Road floods very badly between Route 1 and Route 206, especially east of Princeton Pike.
Wow. That's a
Important comment, because we would look at that and make sure we're not, obviously worsening the condition, but what would be needed to correct that or mitigate any issues.
right. Yeah, that's I was not aware of that flooding problem on Franklin Corner Road. That's a drainage issue for the I believe it's a branch of Shotgun Creek.
The next comment up is related to Ingleside and Route 31. How does the situation at Ingleside and 31 abide with the consideration of design safe enough for a 5-year-old?
At this point, it does not.
Next comment. For all those who might consider intermodal travel, such as taking one's bike on New Jersey Transit bus to and from the bikeway, might your maps indicate where the nearest New Jersey Transit bus stops are close to the bikeway?
I think we could potentially do that. There's bus routes on Pennington Road and on US 206, US 1. And I think that figuring out where to get off the bus is more of a problem than figuring out where to get on the bus. I think that would be more of a problem for mapping and route planning than signage on the roadway.
Let's see. The next comment up, it says, not a question, but a general comment. Kudos on such a comprehensive plan. That is a great leap forward for the cycling citizenry.
Thank you.
Let's see. One person asked for the website where this material is going to be posted.
That will be under the Mercer County Planning Department's site. www.mercercounty.org/GWB. There's the link. That's pretty nice. So that's in the flyer for this public meeting.
Okay, the next question. Is the issue Mount Rose area? I believe that might be related to another cycle track or bikeway outside the scope of the work.
Mountain Rose is a segment of the Lawrence Hopewell Trail, and it is not near this project.
The next question, since you brought up the narrow shoulders on Carter Road, why were the shoulders narrowed in recent repaving? The new construction did not follow Mercer County's complete street rules.
Implementing complete streets facilities, just as we are trying to do here, is often a very, very expensive undertaking. Carter Road needs a lot of work. It's a narrow road over a part of the Princeton Ridge, and I will inquire with our engineering department and highway department why the 11-foot standard travel lane was not implemented if it was not. But again, that is not part of this project.
Let's see, one person said, thank you for this project. Another person asks, for the question, for me, I had to use a red arrow. It wasn't initially obvious. I think they're talking about, being able to see information on the screen. Let's see.
Whether they hid the control panel or opened it up. So we apologize. Go to webinar made some recent updates. Some things are not as user friendly.
Let's
We
see.
8 minutes left. If you could look through them, and if there's a comment that we hadn't heard.
It
And
looks like we're reaching the end of the list. We only have 3 questions to go.
Okay, great.
So let's
So
see.
people can still enter questions.
Yeah. How will the transitions between types of bike facilities designed along GW be?
Denise, you want to take that?
Yeah, just like on a road facility, they'll be signing and striping. Just like when you're driving in a vehicle and it says, what's going to be happening ahead of you, there will be signage. It's a great question.
Okay, the next comment. Do we have a sense of how willing the relevant police departments have been to enforcing things like parking in bike lanes and similar infractions?
I think the residents would be a better source of that information, or the police departments themselves. I don't travel this on a regular enough basis to know what sort of enforcement is out there.
And I don't know, Joe, if you have anything to offer. And I mean, most people really wouldn't park right on the bike lane. I guess that's an issue in isolated areas.
Yeah, the only recommendation I would have for that is, if anyone does see something like that happening, someone parking in a bike lane or doing something like that they're not supposed to, is to call the police department and report it. The officers can't be everywhere all the time. If you call and tell them that there's a problem, they will send someone out to investigate it. Really, all I can add is, you pick up the phone and call them and let them know that there's an issue, and they will dispatch an officer to address it.
Please don't make a call while you're riding your bicycle.
I thought you were going to say, don't make a call to you.
Let's see. 2 more questions. When making a left-hand turn on eastbound Franklin Corners Road, it is impossible to see eastbound bikers on the 2-way bike path who are approaching from behind your car. Are you essentially creating 2 parallel 2-lane roads?
Denise or Joe, do you want to take that?
So
the issue
Joe,
of
I
the
think they're
distance-
talking just really the sight distance that they're having, and will they see the bike lane?
Well, the cycle track on Franklin Corner.
Joe, are you muted?
Franklin Corner approaching Princeton Pike. So if you're
Right,
making
those
a left,
sections where we have the two-way cycle track, and question is correct. If you're looking to make a left turn, there could be a bicycle approaching behind you. The drivers will need to look out for bicyclists when they're looking to make those turns. All we can do is try and keep the sight lines clear as clear as possible, so that the bicyclists and the vehicles can see each other.
The next comment was just received. Thank you so much for doing this. The plan is not, due to all the constraints mentioned, perfect, but it is way better than what we have now.
thank you.
On that note, I'd like to say something. Hey guys, thank you so much. Denise, Joe, Jean, Matt, Brian. I'd like to leave you with a thought. Let perfection not be the enemy of progress. While we acknowledge that this plan that we have proposed is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, I believe it's a great start. And we will build upon it. We have been and we will continue to do the necessary. And hopefully someday we will have a perfect bike plan throughout the county. Thank you.
Okay, the last question we have, is there a possibility to include signals specific for bike travel?
So these would be signals on the roadway where there are signalized intersections that would be indications for cyclists specifically. My understanding is that according to the MUTCD, we have to have signals specific to pedestrians that are visible on the pedestrian way. And my understanding is that the bicycle lanes where we have them, or the two-way cycle track, or shared facilities, that those would be in full view of signal heads where those exist, or pedestrian timers. I'm not sure that any of this warrants a new signal system specifically for the cyclists. The two-way cycle track on Lawrence on 546 approaching Princeton Pike is pretty limited in length. So I'm not seeing the need for specific signal facilities for the cyclists. Michael, thank you for presenting the questions and guiding discussion here. I would like the county engineer, Sunny Muzaffar, to extend thanks to NV5, to Denise, Joe, Jean, and Michael, and thank the public for attending this meeting and asking really good questions. These are the questions that we've been struggling with throughout this project, and trying to offer a facility that responds to the purpose and need of the project, which is to serve cyclists. And I'm hopeful that we can receive additional grant funding for the other segments, or do that with county funds, or with other improvements that may come along with land development proposals. I just again want to say thanks to all, and thank you for paying attention. It's important for the public to give feedback and to help guide the decisions that we make.
Yeah, and just to add to that, the outreach process always makes for a better project. You're there, you're driving, you're walking, you're biking there, and it makes for a better project. To submit questions and comments after this meeting, we ask that you contact Matt Salkowski by March 23rd. The meeting summary, as we said, will be posted on the county's website, along with the PowerPoint presentation and comments and responses. Matt Salkowski's contact information is there. He's a senior planner at Mercer County Department of Planning, 640 South Broad Street, P.O. Box 8068, Trenton, New Jersey, 08650. Preferred format would be email at mzolkowski, MZOCHOWSKI @mercer.org. And we thank everyone for participating tonight. We appreciate your input.
Mike, one real quick question. How long do you anticipate before the recording will be ready on the website? Should we set, will that take till say Monday? I assume we're gonna need a little time to get the video edited and up on the website. So when can anybody expect all of that to be posted?
It should takes a couple hours for it to process, but it should be able, up on the website either by tomorrow afternoon or Monday at the latest.
Okay,
Yeah, we didn't have
thanks.
to do any editing because we didn't, we didn't have any time where we didn't have any participant questions. And Joe, they've been processing a little bit quicker. So we'll get to the county, we'll give them a link and it'll have the recording, it'll have the PowerPoint, and it'll have the progress print plans.
Okay, so everyone can assume by Monday,
Yes,
all
by
the
Monday they'll
information
see.
will be posted.
Yeah. And as far as the comments and responses, we will be working on them. And there's 2-week comment period. So after that 2-week comment period, they'll be posted unless, we do it piecemeal, but we usually do it at that point at the end. So there'll be comments and responses.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the feedback and the attention to the project. And I look forward to its construction. I want to ride it.
Thanks, everyone. Good night.
Good night.
Have a good night.
Good night.